everyone, and welcome to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy at TV. In case you're not a subscriber yet, please do subscribe. Just press the subscribe button as well as turn on the notification bell so that you can get notifications when we upload our videos. Don't also forget to subscribe and join, follow, like our other social media platforms. Of course, you're seeing it right about now. Don't also forget to share this video across your platforms. Enjoy the video. Mr. Odion Omonfoman is joining me right now. He's a power consultant for the Nigerian Governors Forum. He's the new managing director of New Hampshire Capital Limited. Mr. Omonfoman, good to see you. Welcome to the program. Quite a while.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Good to be back on your show. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, let's get started, and I think I'll start from my earlier question, and I don't know if you heard it. Why are Nigerians still paying for dark, still paying more for darkness? You know, the Band A people are really suffering because I'm in Band A. I need to tell you, I need to voice out this morning the kind of amount that I spend to pay for power, But even across the bands, Nigerians are still paying more for electricity, yet we are not getting that which we are paying for. Even for many, they are paying even without meters. Or even for many, they are the ones in charge of their transformers in their areas, meters and all of that. So what exactly is happening? Can you help us unpuzzle it?
Well, thank you again for the question. For the Band A question, I'll leave that to from why that service, the service-based tariff has not been as effective as planned. But in a nutshell, we're faced with a logical outcome of past choices, actions, and inactions. You use the word puzzle. The Nigerian power sector is a puzzle. I don't think it's a puzzle. I think we are facing the logical outcomes of certain actions and inactions we've taken. For instance, the country did a wholesale privatize the electricity distribution sector. Meanwhile, no one party had run. We had no private sector involvement in the electricity distribution hitherto before, right? Even the Indian model that we took, India only privatized the New Delhi distribution company, and then we used the New Delhi model to privatize the entire of things. Maybe if we had done it in piecemeal, we would have seen the results of self-corrected. But that's one outcome we're living with today. And unfortunately, that's one outcome that is hindering the growth of the sector, because you now have investors who do not have the wherewithal financially and technically to pull the sector out of the darkness we're in. We have regulations that are at best ineffective. Then you then have a lot of government interference in the entire sector. So you'll find out that these are things that have added to a point where we are today. And unfortunately, if we don't quickly self-correct, we would remain in this same position. But to answer your question, we're paying more for we're paying more for power when we're getting darkness, because a number of things are broken in the system.
Okay, let's take a look at this government's response to letting Nigerians be more, that's for us to have more energy. Recently, at the Federal Executive Council meeting, we saw the newly approved electricity policy. How do you think that this would reshape Nigeria's power structure moving forward and implementation? Because we do not lack ideas, especially even in this power sector that we've been talking about for God knows how long. Yet, that sector still defies all necessary solutions. How much of a game changer is this? And do you think that the Federal Executive Council is now giving it that due attention? Because I always hear from, in fact, I even said a piece of news this morning from the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu. He gives us things like every week, whether it's right or wrong, but he just says something, So what do you think?
Well, the National Integrated Electricity Policy and Strategic Implementation Plan is something that is encoded in the new laws, the 2020 2023 Electricity Act. It's something that has to now be produced. But I must say this, right? Nigeria has never been short of electricity policies. Uh, Perhaps what the NEIP does is to update our last policy document that was in 2001. By the way, it's all policy, and like I said, we are never short of policy statements and all that. What has crippled us, or where we have found lacking and wanting, is implementation of policies. And we've seen that's where the failure point has been, where even though policies are good on paper, implementing them becomes an issue, either because there's a which are kind of, but there's very clearly lack of funding opportunities. There's also the political will to carry through some of these policies that may have been tabled down in such nice documents. But by and large, it is a roadmap that, if diligently followed, will be at the end of the tunnel. But again, implementation is really the challenge, as it has always been.
Let's take a look at the role of the Nigeria Independent Systems Operator, whose board was recently inaugurated by the Vice President. You know, when I was thinking through this interview, what came to my mind is that how does it really improve transmission efficiency? Because it seems that transmission in the value chain, whether transmission seems to be the weakest link. If you take a look at this NISO, that is the Independent System Operator, versus TCN, you know, institutional realignment, what do you think about that?
I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, before the transmission company of Nigeria played the role of this provider, system market operator, right? So clearly, the TCN was managing its own shortcomings. There was nothing independent about how it managed its own shortcomings. So where it failed, it kept it to itself, and the whole country failed. System operator, CN, which will now be called, which is now a transmission service provider. So TCN effectively will manage the lines, the 330 lines, the 132 kV lines, manage them, make sure they're operational. While the whole idea of scheduling generation, dispatch, and also the market operation roles that TCN, that were departments within TCN, have now been removed from TCN. So effectively, there's now an entity checkmating. Well, let me know it's checkmating. There's now an entity playing like a check and balance role on TCN. So TCN needs to make sure the lines are properly working, infrastructure is working well. This third party, or rather this independent party, is now the party that is able to tell the gencos, all right, I need XYZ generation, the load centers, I need this load, and then also coordinate the settlement of all the operators on the markets. And in looking at it, that should create a lot of independence, a lot of checks and balances on both sides, which should lead to a more stable national grid system.
Let's talk about the decentralization of this electricity markets. I know the last time you were here, we talked about it. That was, I think, after President Buhari decentralized it. That's the 2023 Act that can now make states, you know, have their own, do their own things across the value chain. And I know that perhaps, from my last count, whether about 10 states. Can you give me really an overview of how you think we are doing? Because even at that time, we all thought that it would be the game changer, like anything in Nigeria. You know, like local government autonomy now, which the president said, was it earlier this year? We've not seen anything. You know, so what do you think about this? The operational efficiency of these electricity markets in states. I know, I think Enugu, Ekiti, Ondo, I think Lagos and Co. So what's your view?
Yeah. So it's still something we meant a game changer. Effectively, the decentralization of the Nigerian power sector along regulatory and legal lines remains a game changer. Like I said in the last time I was on your show, I said it will take a while. It's not an immediate. You will not feel the effects almost immediately. But just to say that we have 17 states right now that have made
Okay.
passed their electricity laws. A number of states have now taken charge of their markets. Lagos should take charge of its markets by next month. And the Lagos market is effectively about 40 to 60% of the total electricity market in Nigeria. So that will be very interesting to see how Lagos starts to drive its own electricity bill. Takes a large chunk of demand from within the national grid. But by and large, we also have had teething problems as states are jumping into creating their electricity markets. First of all, government and the states in how this process. I mean, we talked about the national policy documents. I mean, I consult Federal Governors Forum. There really was no input from states into that document. Even the document was approved by at FERC. I think it should have been approved at the NEC level, as the National Economic Council that houses all the 36 states, right? So even from a policy perspective, there was no serious input by states into that document. The second is we're also seeing that there's seemingly no regulatory coordination between NERC and then the upcoming. And these are new entities. NERC has been in existence for over 20 years. It's still struggling. So you can imagine new people coming on board. They will need a lot of handling. We're not seeing this happen. As a matter of fact, we're seeing a distancing where NERC is on one side and then the states are on the other side. And there seems to be nobody to say, hey, can we start to have more coordination between the states and the federal government or federal entities? There are some federal government entities that are actually hell bent on keeping status quo. Effectively, they want to still operate within state electricity markets, never minding the fact that nothing the states now control their markets. So we're going to see a lot of headbutting, and we hope that this headbutting between the states and federal entities, we can minimize it and create a lot more coordination. That is where the office of the Minister of Power really comes in here. We would like to see a lot more coordination from his office, right? Coordinating both the states and the federal entities to make sure we have a harmonious power sector. But where we are now, it seems like the states are on their own, even funding. All the monies that we all pay go into the federal coffers. It will be interesting to see how Lagos starts to collect its own revenues to fund its markets. But at the end of the day, we need greater coordination. And I think that's one of the things where they're also expecting coordination at on the macroeconomic side of things. So coordination seems to be a challenge that we don't do very well solving.
Mm. Let's talk about this $200 billion investment in power, according to the Minister of Power, Debaya Adelabo, which translates to $10 billion dollars in annual investments to reform the sector. What specific investment categories do you think that we should look at how this monies should come in? And perhaps I'm just like, being optimistic for that sector now. Which categories do you think would return the highest rate of investment, highest ROIs? And where would this money even come from in the first place? A sector that we
Well,
are
I
owing
guess
trillions.
my first question is, do we really need $10 billion of annual spend in the power sector? It'll be interesting to see where the minister has gotten those figures from.
Mm.
But to my mind, I don't think we need that quantum of investment on an annual basis. I say so because if you look at the entire NIPP projects, NIPPs, they are not only the 10 power plants that are built, they also cover significant transmission infrastructure, even distribution infrastructure. The NIPP project must have cost about $8 billion. Even at that, we're yet to utilize half of what the NIPPs have built. So when you say when the minister says we need $10 billion on an annual basis, the first question is, okay, how we come about the sizing and where are we putting it? Similar to your question. But yes, make no mistake, the sector needs investment. It needs a lot of investment, but maybe not to that extent that the minister said. And in terms of the areas the sector needs investment, the sector needs investment in the last mile side of things, the distribution aspect of it. Transmission, as far as I'm concerned, is not the weakest link. It is a distribution segment that is the weakest link because you and I, our last mile connection, it is not reliable. So if you spend so much money, make propping up a national grid that cannot deliver power because the last mile is faulty, you're going to end up stranding all that capital. And that's what I think has happened, both on the NIPP and the other project. The distribution segment of the value chain has seen no real investment. You talked about metering. Metering is a challenge. I was part of the people that came up with the meter asset provider regulation.
Yeah.
Without that regulation, a lot of Nigerians wouldn't have had bad in the first place. I mean, if you want service, then you may as well just make sure you have the tools to connect. But beyond that, the transformers, I mean, VGC, Victoria Garden City, they were complaining they're on band A, but they don't have electricity. And it's not because TCN is poor, TCN is just beside that. The last mile infrastructure, the transmission infrastructure, the ring main units, and everything that should deliver reliable 24-hour power, even 20-hour power, is not there because the DISCO has not made the right investments. So I think if there's any area or segment that require significant investment in that sector, it will be the distribution value chain, not generation, please.
Yes, it is the distribution. I agree with you, but we've also seen, haven't we seen investments in the distribution space for a while now? You know, but while you think about that, you talked about the metering, and we know that there's a presidential, what do they call it, a presidential metering initiative, if I'm not mistaken, because there are so many, there are so many initiatives now in power that only God knows how you will keep up. How does this actually differ in structure and in ambition to, you mentioned it earlier, MAP, meter asset providers. You also have the yes,
National Mass Metering Policy.
Exactly. That's why you're having PMI. Please just take me through this, and if this would indeed address the question around metering as we round
There's
up.
also what you call the with MISPON, there's also what you call the meter acquisition fund, which is something that is being rolled out as well. So yes, you're correct. There's a lot of initiatives in the metering space, which unfortunately the metering gap still persists. But in terms of the presidential metering initiative, it is a federation initiative where the federal government, the states, and the local governments have pulled together resources, roughly about 700 billion naira, to fund the metering gap in the sector. Now, the question is how we operate. With regards to the work they're doing, I don't have the full clarity to recover the funds. I know they're going to go out to the market, do public procurement, international procurement, local procurement. And 100 billion is not a donation to the discos. In what manner and form will it be given to the utilities? And how will payback happen is what I don't have clarity yet. But suffice to say, beyond the PMI, you also have the World Bank funded district program,
yes,
where the first procurement has already happened, 1.2 million meters. Another round of procurement is expected to happen, another 1 million odd meters. But you find that these are all sovereign loans, right? And at the end of the day, how will these monies be paid back? Everything will have to go through the tariff. When you then have state electricity markets, states effectively regulate electricity distribution.
okay.
The cash box of the sector. So managing that interplay between the state and the federal, particularly in an area where there's no coordination or not very effective coordination, is something I'm actually quite interested in seeing how it will work out.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Omonfoman, for your perspectives this morning and making us understand the power puzzle indeed, what's happening. Let's continue to watch the space and see how it goes. Thank you very much. I wish you a lovely day.
You too. Thank you so much.
All right, I've been speaking with Odion Omonfoman. He's a power sector consultant to the Nigerian Governors Forum. That's the show today. Thank you all for joining us on today's edition of the program. Be the best you can be and be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. Bye for now. Thank you for making it up to this minute watching the video. Thank you all. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Moneyline with Nancy TV. Like, follow all our other social media platforms where we keep you up to speed with fantastic interviews, as well as markets, personal finance, business, and economy information. This is the best place to be. I'll see you all again in the next video.